Over the span of 3 years, my climbing partners, John Otto, Asu, Dalio, and I, Tim Boelter, carried out 3 expeditions to scale the last unclimbed independent 6,000-meter peak in the Sichuan Province of China. But before we could even climb the mountain, we had to first get to it. And that proved to be the real challenge.
I'm recording. Just the voices. We're trying to take our equipment.
This is the most troublesome village I've seen, I've been in.
Some bad things happened to us. All the villagers came to the house we stay and rushed in and tried to grab our luggage.
We are going to leave now.
What happened?
We cannot climb this mountain from this side. And the local people, this village and the other village, they do not let us climb from here. They say there'll be maybe, if we stay here, maybe we get trouble.
They told us to leave right away. If we spend one more night here, they can't guarantee our safety.
They were talking Tibetan for a long time, and we didn't know what fate we'd have. This is calm Tibet. The calm Tibetans are the ones that held off the Chinese when they tried to come in the 50s. The calm Tibetans were the ones that the CIA trained to fight against the Chinese, and the calm Tibetans are known all through Tibet as being the warrior Tibetans. The situation is pretty tense right now. One holy man in the village that I think was instilling the sense of fear in the other young men. And so as they were understanding that our presence being there, what bad luck it could bring, I think that's when they just wanted us out of there as quickly as possible. And all my experience of ever being in Tibet, other parts of China, we've always settled it. Whether it was money or whether it was just misunderstanding, I've always solved it. And it's the first time where we've been ejected from a valley or from our objective and not been able to solve the issue.
The government came in, and we are now packing all our bags and leaving the village and heading back out.
I didn't have time to wait around for 1 or 2 or 3 days, try to solve things.
Going down.
Going down from other side.
Going home, the other side, yep.
So we decided to go around to the other valley into the south side of the mountain.
What do you think? Okay, that's good. One word sums up having to leave the north side of the mountain: uncertainty. Why Yamalong? Because it was the epitome of adventure, of exploration, this mountain. It really was, from every aspect. It was unclimbed, and it was technical, and it felt like unfinished business because our friend and climber, Liu Sinan, had died there, and I really wanted to see for myself what was this mountain all about.
There is a slight fear, I wouldn't say intrepidation, but slight fear that always is there, and a worry, and things go around in my head and again as we approach the climb. When I'm actually there in the present at the base of the mountain, all that just kind of evaporates, and I'm kind of in the moment of the climbing.
I've climbed my whole life, pretty much. It's what I do. I do it well. I suppose climbing does define who I am. Climbing, though, adds this whole other element that makes life a lot more meaningful for me. It is who I am. I was a dad later. They are both who I am. It's funny, I see myself as having these 2 different lives. I'm a father, so my daughter, and I have those set of friends, people I know, who know that side of me. I don't think of myself as like the typical climber, you know, I guess. Maybe there's no typical climber. There's a pull there. It's just a constant pull of one against the other. And it's, you know, I still have not found the balance. I've been the primary care for my daughter, I think, for the last 5 years since she was born. I mean, last night we made an igloo out of clay because she wanted to make an igloos. Yeah, I've done like a lot of the like traditional mother stuff for like the 5 past years.
Tiger.
It's kind of funny you think about like the hard climber and he's the stay-home dad. I take my daughter to school and I pick her up from school.
Oh my foot.
Of course, when I pick her up at school, we go different modes. Sometimes we take the car, sometimes we go to the jogging stroller, sometimes we ride her bike. So, and I'll run along with her. Like if I'll run her in the jogging stroller, I'll run along with her on the bike. Try to get a little exercise in there.
And then where you find Bill, you'll find Ben. When you find Ben, you'll find Bill.
We play together, and we go swimming together every week. And I take her to the clock climbing wall, of course. What I think about now, mostly about that, is my daughter, because I could tell how much I mean to her, and if I was to, I get just teared up thinking about like what her life would be without a dad. So, why do people say you keep climbing?
There's always a certain element of the unknown in this part of China. Traveling and climbing here is often wrought with bureaucratic challenges.
This whole area is what Joseph Rock in the 1920s referred to as the lawless land. And in a lot of ways, we found out it was still like that, even to this day.
The mountain is on the border of Sichuan and Tibet. It is a frontier region. The local people don't even speak Han Chinese.
Yamalong is actually a compilation of 3 peaks. The most eastern one being the tallest, called Yamalong. The central peak, some people have named Markala, and the third peak, the most western peak, called Dangjinjinla. And up until now, Dangjinjinla is the only one that's been climbed. So coming here is really like exploring a new place, and you have to prepare for that in all aspects of your climbing. So you have to come in with a mindset, I think, to be slightly conservative and be able to adapt well to different conditions that come up.
Here on the second step of the Himalayas stand some of the last beautiful unclimbed peaks on Earth. The best climbers in the world come here, seeking the purity and adventure of a first ascent.
In Sichuan, there's so much to climb. There's so many unclimbed peaks. There's so many new routes. Only the tip of the iceberg has been done there.
The essence of climbing goes beyond the physical act of moving upward. It's the sum of the whole experience, and that's why we come to these places.
And I think as a climber, when you see a picture and then you learn what part of the world they're in, that's attractive. There are not many places in the world left where you can really go and explore.
When you climb mountain, you see different, different area, different culture, different people lifestyle.
It's just the cultural elements, the natural beauty, and the mountains. It just all of it combined is what attracts these top-end mountaineers.
I learned a lot from locals' culture. Something really touch you. It make me, changing. You get something from there. It mean a lot.
The Northern Valley was no longer an option for us, so the next morning we went around to the Changba Valley and hiked to the south side of the mountain.
The horses come, and then we start traversing along the right side of the valley through these wonderful forests. We start going through these Tibetan villages. And Tim was filming and invited into houses to film. People wanted to look at the pictures, and it was just a very organic experience. And we walk all the way up past the last village into the small monastery. And that's where we make camp. And they're 6 days into an 8-day celebration for the dead. They invite us in to participate in the religious festivities in the monastery.
You know, they just pray for us, for peace, for safe, for everything, for health.
It was just a remarkable experience because I don't think any Westerners have ever been in this particular monastery.
It was the polar opposite of what happened in the Northern Valley. I've never been welcomed into a monastery to participate in the local ceremonies.
All the locals line up on either side of the door outside the monastery. And so the monks and the locals, whoever wanted to, it seemed like, started bringing out all the food that was offering at the altars within the monastery. And they start bringing it out and they pouring it on the fire. And this fire has a highly religious significance. You cannot put anything else on this fire. You cannot touch this fire otherwise. And then everybody came out and got in a semicircle around it, singing prayers, I believe it was. This experience at the monastery made the whole trip just worth it, even if we didn't come to climb the mountain.
From the monastery, we load up the horses and trek up the steep valley.
There are sheer cliffs on all three sides of us. I'm thinking, how are we getting up to this lake? And we start walking up the valley and just this switch back, and we go up 500 vertical meters, like 1,700 vertical feet.
We arrive at this beautiful alpine lake cradled in the mountains and set up our base camp.
Really, you know, the lake is so clean, so clear, and the color, like the skies on the lake.
The local horsemen and their families then assemble these colorful prayer flags right at our camp, singing prayers the whole time. We could see the top part of Yamalong from camp, but now we had to figure out how to get to the base of the mountain.
You can spend half your time and energy just getting to the base of the mountain. Once you're at the base of the mountain, you still have to figure out how to climb it.
And we need to try to find these routes, the face of the Yangmolong.
You want to go up here, or do you want to go around?
It's not easy.
And as a climber, you become used to walking on these moraines, moving or moving rock piles. But this place was that on steroids. I mean, the whole thing was just below the mountain was just rock piles into rock piles.
Any misstep could be disastrous. We climb up this broken ridge that separates us from the face of Yamalong.
It's steep, so steep, you know, and the rock is loose.
From the top, we can finally see the entire south side of the mountain.
We take some pictures and look at it, and he said, hey, I think there looks like a possible route right up there.
Up to the glacier, little like vertical climbing.
Yeah.
Horizontal all the way across. And then up.
Oh my God. Underneath the serac there.
That was a small serac, yeah.
And so you don't know anything about how to approach the mountain or the route, or where you're going to even put base camp, and you have no idea how much technical gear or what type of technical gear you should bring. So you have to guess, according to your past experience, the best of how much to bring and how much food to bring.
Today, we wanted to head out at 11 a.m., but we ended up leaving at 2:30. Not bad. And we're going from base camp, and we're hiking around to the base of our route.
觉了。
最上面的石头开始吗？
一个是从这个角度下的，然后到上面那个雪下面的平台，然后睡觉了。然后另外一个从直直下来的，
一个是就是从冰块上头。
对，另外从这个角度过来的。
先下。
And this huge boulder, about this big, came down and just smashed about 20 yards or 20 meters in front of me and then splintered.
Oh boy.
I immediately just like took shelter behind another big boulder down a little bit so stuff above could not hit us and waited for the rest of the guys to come up.
I think maybe it's not good season for climbing that side in that time, you know?
Most of the rocks I couldn't see because they were coming down so fast, but you could hear them. You can hear a rock when it shatters against another rock and it's going really, really fast and it explodes.
That's how we got to go down.
It was really warm. I mean, we got a really warm spell. We were going to go up the frozen waterfall. It was ice and then turned into a waterfall.
God, I don't like this route.
Very dangerous?
Yeah, too many dogs fall. It makes me nervous.
It's like we had gone through all that stuff in the Northern Valley. And then we were finally on the southern side, on the mountain. But it's a death trap.
We're going to see what we can do on the other side of the mountain. That's all we've been doing is going from one part of the mountain to the next part of the mountain.
So we did pick a line. It was like the one weakness in the rock band. It was like a fissure that went up.
We climb up this small runnel, which requires a combination of rock and ice climbing skills known as mixed climbing. In this situation, you're climbing very delicately while using your ice axe and crampons on both rock and ice.
It's kind of interesting news for you. Sometimes, like when I was carried by bike, the ice just always like a fall. Of course, I'm fall with the ice. It's kind of good. The rocks fall, ice fall. It just makes you nervous, you know.
Whoa, rock! This huge chunk of ice breaks off, and I scream, ice! And Tim ducks and barely misses his head, but it smashes right into his hand.
Ice! Shit!
And his whole hand swells up and he can't use it, and we think it's broken. But we still continue up.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God. Too many ice fall.
I've never been on a mountain with such loose, unstable rock. And then ice was coming down from above. But it's almost like you just get used to it. When all the dangers are elevated to a certain level, then it's almost like you get culturated to that being the norm, and you don't understand what a dangerous situation you're in. And I think we were getting to that point.
Oh my God, that almost hit me.
Almost took my face off.
Oh my God.
You can hear it when it comes near enough. And if that hits you, it would break your jaw. It would take you out. A little rock could kill you.
Looks scary. Scary. What? Rock? Was that actual rock that came down?
Yeah, it was.
Where did it come from? This side or this side?
Oh, Jesus. That's it. I'm done.
Rock just fall in the lawn. It's very, very dangerous. It'll heal you, it'll kill you.
If an outsider looks at what you're doing, they're going to think that you're doing very dangerous stuff. I think I take more care now in trying to think about the risks and managing the risks as much as possible than I ever did. And I've just through over 10 years of experience of climbing in Sichuan, have I really come to understand more about how the different conditions change in that respect. And if you don't understand that, then it's very dangerous. And the problem is there haven't been enough people climbing there. There hasn't been enough information disseminated about that. Climbing is a sport where experience counts for a lot, not just knowledge, experience and judgment. And that's stuff that's built up years and years of doing it.
He's got this too, though.
Okay, slack.
We wanted to check out the ice conditions above before making a final decision as whether to continue up the route earlier tomorrow.
I start climbing up vertical chandelier ice, very long strips of ice, brittle. And I put in a screw, it starts going in fine for the first couple inches, and then it just kind of sinks for the last bit. I'm like, that's hollow. So I put another one, and it's hollow where it is too.
The later it got, the worse our situation became.
I think this whole ice, it just sucks. It has no density, or it's all hollow underneath. It's very thin.
Ice!
Huge chunks of ice start falling off from above because the sun was shining on them.
Like enormous and scary. So many ice fall, locusts fall.
I had no idea what was up above. And if we came off this thing, we can't depend that any of our ice screws would hold us. But then rocks as well start coming down this route. We decided to abandon the route. That's it. It's over. It was the only possible side on the south side of Yamalong.
It's dangerous that route in that time. So you only help, nah? You want to make yourself give up.
After giving up on Yamalong, John, Asu, and I decided to try Dungeon Zungla, just so we could climb something. So with 50-pound packs on and a determined focus to get to the summit quickly, we traversed from Yamalong's base camp, over the boulder fields, across the glacier, and up to our high camp on Dungeon Zungla.
That first day, we were going along up the same route that our friend and climber Liu Xinan, where he had died. He had fallen down onto that glacier that we were traversing over. Asu had had his fair share of seeing death in the mountains, so he was very quiet.
For the point for me climb the mountain is other thing. You know, my friend Liu Xinan got an accident there a couple years ago, just next to the Dangje Zhenna. When climbing, I think he's just like he's what you climbing, you know. I feel him on the mountain.
Liu Xinan was one of China's first made rock climbers. He pushed the sport and was the first person to climb 513, a very high grade for anybody in China. He had done impressive first ascents on some big walls, and this accident that happened in spring 2007 on the central peak of the Yamalong Massif was completely unexpected, and there are still many questions regarding it that I think will never be answered.
We try to rescue, but after we check, we know he already gone.
But the best climbers in the world are now starting to come here and climbing here. And the mountains here have taken the lives of a handful of those climbers, including Christine Boskov, Charlie Fowler, Micah Dash, Johnny Kopp, world-class climbers.
When I carried down in the second time on the Chris and the first time the Charlie, the body, it just make me do not climb anymore. Make me feel about the really. I never want to come back to the mountain. In these 2 years, my friends just went away.
And in some ways, I was actually hoping we would have found Liu Xinan up on the glacier or some remnants of him, because I know his girlfriend really wanted us to find something up there. But right now, all we have is the stone memorial there next to the lake and the memories. Everybody just took the moment to reflect for themselves about Xinan. So we're on day 9 of continually being on the move and climbing with no rest.
And I want Big Mac too.
Big Mac too?
Yeah.
Okay. I see the Western society has corrupted you.
Somebody owe me.
We get up early in the morning. It was a beautiful day. It was a very cold day. I just wanted to get up this thing as quickly as possible because I was thinking about getting home to my daughter.
We try to find an interesting route to climb the Dangje Zhenna.
The 3 of us fired up the mountain, relying more on our experience and the trust we have in each other than in the few pieces of protection we placed between us.
And we climb up a new route on steep slopes, knife edge ridges, but you have to be right on. You have to have your full concentration the whole time. Because one small mistake or a miscalculation could kill you.
Sometimes you need a weight and you have no place for stand up or sit, just use front point, so steep.
But climbing fast like that, is it's exciting, kind of at the limit of where you feel safe, pushing yourself slightly.
It's getting windy.
From our tent up to the summit, it took about 4 hours.
First row of the breakers.
And then we were there at the summit. Not to say that it wasn't a challenging climb.
On your summit, you feel good. You can see all the mountain over there.
For Asu, it meant something to be able to stand on top of Zhangjianla, looking over on the adjacent peak and the face where Liu Xinan had fallen. It kind of gave some closure, I think, to all of that.
Liu Xinan, he has some unfinished work over there. Maybe we finish it.
And on the summit, we threw prayer papers into the air and they blew towards the summit of Makar, where Liu Xinan had fallen.
I just want to say hi for him. Just say hi. Say hello. That's all.
Climbing is a part of my Buddhism because climbing really makes me think a lot. When I start climbing, you have to think about, what are you doing right now? Every movement, every step. Buddhism makes me think a lot because the Buddhism teach me a lot about life. When I was a young kid, my father let me read a lot of books, old Chinese books. And I still can remember that poetry from Tang Dynasty, which is said, travel 10,000 miles in your life, read 10,000 books in your life. I think this is pretty much symbolized of my life right now. Because I like traveling, climbing. I like to know different culture. I like to read different books. Make my eyesight to be wide. People always say that you should be somebody, like this. You should do something like this. But we got a very short time to think about what kind of person you want to be, what kind of thing you want to do. I mean, you have to do it. Do whatever you want to do. But this is not easy because there's a lot of pressures, a lot of elements to try to stop you to do that because you have to follow kind of rule, or culture, whatever. Buddhism gave me answer of my life philosophy. My name is Liu Yong. People call me Da Liu because in Chinese Da means big. My family name is Liu. They call me Big Liu.
This is what climbers do when they're not climbing.
My friends think I'm a kind of little special person. By Chinese old culture, we think everybody should, start it when they're young, when they're grown up, to get married, to have a family, make a living. I think the new generation of Chinese think a lot more about the value of their life,
Yeah, not bad. Mirror. Yeah. Is there supposed to be someone up there? Are you supposed to be belaying somebody?
I'm sorry, man. What is that there? Climbing is what I like, so I really concentrate on climbing.
Fuck! This is too small. Can't hold this. Fuck!
Dalio's a go-getter and a really strong rock climber. It can sometimes be over the top.
Shit! Gay! Okay, take! Fuck! Almost full!
This muscle is not enough.
No? Why?
Because I want to climb harder.
I can't! So small! Fucking small! Fuck!
Are you always so emotional?
Every time when I climb a big mountain or big wall or even a boulder problem, it brings me to the limit of my ability. So I feel my life has lots of a challenge. stimulation, which can make my mind get more energy to think. Climbing for me is like a philosophy. It's a lifestyle. My friends Tim and John, they gave me a call, said, do you want to climb Yamalong? I want to see a little bit more about this mountain.
When we reached the summit of Danjenzangla and looked over at Yamalong, we could see the top part of the north face. This perspective gave us more insight as to what we were up against.
So it gave a different, sense of what the mountain was like and gave us a little more information, another little window on what the route was that we would eventually take. It just made me more confident that side was our side we're going to climb.
In 1991, the Japanese made the first recorded attempt up the long, prominent spur of the north face of Yamalong. But weather and avalanche conditions forced them back from their high point at 5,400 meters. In 2007, a British team returned to the same route that the Japanese attempted, but they too were forced back at the same altitude by deplorable conditions. And in 2009, unbeknownst to us, only 1 month before we arrived in the Songlongshi Valley, the British were back. And this time, they had their sights set on the east face of Yamalong. The climbing conditions were terrible, but what was more troubling is the team became a target of extortion by the local villagers, and gear was stolen. Local police were called in to the village.
We did give it an earnest effort in 2009, but we were sort of forced to go from the south side. So we couldn't go up the northern valley, and the south side had too many objective dangers. There turned out to be another valley that came in from the west that we had to go over a large pass, but then we could get to the north side.
From this side, we've never been. There's not any information from this side.
The difficulty with climbing an unknown, unclimbed mountain in these parts of the world is that there is no good information or materials you can get to begin with.
Over there, and we're right in here. Yeah. So they don't show it go down.
Climbing that area, it's always a problem, even for Chinese climbers, because this place is like a frontier region. For Western climbers or foreign climbers, it's more difficult because they don't understand the language.
Every little thing about climbing these mountains you have to figure out on your own. It takes a certain type of climber to want to pursue those types of objectives. So in 2010, we decided to go in without getting any of the official permits because we had gotten them the year before in 2009 and they didn't do us any good.
This time we decided to go in a month later in hopes that it will be colder and the mountain less prone to rock fall.
It's a big expedition, even I'm living here in China.
The drive takes 20 hours spread over 2 days. But what makes this trip different is that we have no knowledge about where we are going. All we do know is that there is a monastery located on a ridgetop overlooking the valley we need to go up. We drive up this rugged road with countless switchbacks and heart-stopping drop-offs at every turn. Eventually the road ended. It ended right at the monastery.
It was nighttime as we got up to the top, and we actually did not know what to expect when we got there. We didn't know what the village would be like or what would be there.
But this man comes out of the monastery to greet us, and then invites us to stay at his home in the nearby village.
You just show up in these places, and people often will invite you into their home or their tents. They're very hospitable, and they'll give you tea and feed you and try to help out as needed.
Damn good.
You're right there.
And of course we did thank them in the way we could. We actually paid them some money and then used their services the following day.
Han Chinese and the Tibetans, they have a different culture, a different language, different dress, a different lifestyle. The woman who's a host of the place, she married the brothers. For me, I heard about that before, but that was my first time to see this situation.
We had found on the map a potential pass up and over to the north side of Yamalong. It started in the village of Yingor and then went up this unnamed valley that John called Sorasi because it was the nearest village. It was a little more involved than we thought. There was a major glacier that we had to travel up, and the pass was a lot higher than we anticipated. It definitely wasn't a feasible route for our porters.
The next morning, we actually saw where we were. We walked over to the monastery, and it was clearly a building that had been in neglect for many years, but now they were putting a lot of love and attention into fixing up. The head lama invited us into the common room. They hadn't seen people like us, I'm sure, much at all, if ever. And so they were very excited and interested in who we were, and we were very interested in what they were doing, building this whole dormitory for the students, and they had just started.
The children, they have no place for reading and writing. They get lessons outside there.
The monastery had these 14 young boys there studying there, probably between the ages of 7 and 12. And this was a renewal of old traditions. Traditionally, families had to give one of their sons to the monastery to study.
For most of the Tibetan families, it's an honor to have one of the kids to be a monk.
But also the monasteries were kind of a place where you got your entire education. There were universities, there were colleges. So you studied all your topics.
From the village, we hike up a trail that leads to this beautiful alpine meadow and another much smaller monastery.
It's somewhere, people could not see from the world.
Here, a group of older Tibetan monks are in meditation.
I have a talk with the people, then I start to realize that they have a variety culture. When they're getting old, they come to the monastery here, stay here, kind of doing a meditation. For them, they think the rest of their life they will spend in their monastery.
Beautiful valley, isn't
If you
it?
could live every day out here, you'd be happy.
We're lucky we got good weather. It's getting very hot for like half hour. Still have long way to go over there. Yeah, it's beautiful. Stinky.
Not yet.
It is stinky.
No, not yet. Come here.
We don't know how many days we're going to spend, so we need to carry all the stuff.
We hike another 3 hours to the lake.
After arriving at our first camp, I discovered that someone had gone through my bag and taken my warm weather gear.
Tim was going through his pack, then he noticed that his gloves were missing. He started looking further, he noticed this, his power gel was missing, and other things were missing. I started to go my pack, and I noticed that my really warm mittens were missing.
Yeah.
We hired them to use their motorcycle.
They couldn't fit all the bags on their motorcycles to take up to the last village. So I left my bag down, and Tim left his bag down. So we left both of our bags, our rucksacks, in their house. It was one of their relatives' house. Mm-hmm. They drove their motorcycle up, dropped off those bags, and then drove back down. It wasn't even 2 hours. They opened his rucksack and took things out, and then took my down jacket from my backpack and put it in his backpack, so his backpack would still look full. Mm-hmm. So this was very thought out.
Very thought out.
So they checked the village last night. They found nothing, and this guy went back to the place we stayed.
But at this point, no one knows what happened. No one's claiming any responsibility.
No.
And that's after going to every house in the village.
Yeah, they only have 7, 8 families there.
We were really worried because we thought our climb was over. And we started figuring out exactly how many gloves we have and other warm gear, and we thought that maybe it would have been enough to continue to climb the mountain.
And we're right in here.
Yeah.
See, they don't show it go down.
You're going down here.
Well, now we do it out about 100 meters.
We've been going up every day without spending an extra night at any altitude. Typically, this would be bad for acclimatizing, but we're all feeling strong.
Today we're going to take all the climbing equipment and gas in one tent up to the pass up there. It's about 400 vertical meters to check out the route. And we're pretty sure we can go down the other side, but we just want to make sure. Then we're going to come back here tonight, spend one night, and tomorrow morning we're going to take all our equipment, everything, break tent, go up to the pass, and then we're going to have really heavy packs and go down the other side and onto the glacier.
How's it going today?
Oh, it's just windy and cold.
Was last night pretty damn windy?
Yeah, damn windy. I just worry you and me are blown away.
During the next 4 days, we continued to explore a route up and over the high pass that separated our valley with that of the north face of Yamalong.
2 days we have to do the same things 2 times, climb up 500 meters. We carry lots of stuff on the back.
The glacier was much longer than expected, and when we arrived at the pass, a sudden storm developed.
Oh, we're getting sucked in.
Here we are.
What they say about the mountains of Sichuan is that the weather changes every 2 minutes. The conditions can be the difference between killer and perfect.
Holy shit, the wind's really picking up.
Go.
Rock. Shit.
Come on.
You have to go there, take your best guess, and that's it. See what happens.
The approach, which is a very hard approach, just like a mountain climbing.
It was a lot more involved than we anticipated it would be.
Once over the pass, we then had to contend with the deep snow.
We went in a little later in the season because we thought the conditions would be more stable, but it turned out that it had started snowing already.
Deep snow really dangerous because there are lots of rock down there, so it's easy to break your leg.
You all right? It was very physically exhausting, even to get to the base of the mountain.
Take a long time. The snow is steep, and the climb up is steep, climb down is steep, and it's just like it uses a lot of energy over there.
Finally, we got to the 5,000 meters base camp.
So approaching the mountain took 6 days, and it also took like 3 days of real climbing. By the time we got to the mountain, we had already, in a sense, in terms of like exertion, already like climbed a mountain.
I'm standing in a snowstorm, getting the gear ready for tomorrow, because we believe it's going to be nice, really nice tomorrow and for the next 4 days, so we can start the actual climb.
So is that positive thinking?
We're finally here at base
Is that positive thinking?
We're finally here at base camp. I think we've had like about 4 base camps so far. The route is right there in front of us.
The snow was deep and getting deeper with nightly snowfalls. For me as a cameraman, it was challenging, especially because I prefer to capture the story in real time without interrupting the flow of the expedition. Filming was always secondary to the climb, and time was of the essence.
I know as a climber you have to adapt to all these different situations, snow, ice, rock, but deep snow really make me feel desperate.
If you're going up a 40 or 50 degree slope, the snow, it's up to your chest level. That's what exhausts you with climbing like this. That's just digging through snow and just wading through deep snow. I mean, that's the hard stuff. It's not necessarily the vertical, technical terrain.
It's bad, and it's snowing, and this side is steep.
Just a huge snow plot.
Chest high? Chest deep?
Chest deep, Arsu. Knee deep for me. Oh, it was blowing. It snowed a lot last night, maybe a foot, and we were hoping that it would blow the clouds out. but I have faith because the pressure is keeps going up.
Yeah, but John, you've been saying the pressure's been coming up for 3 days, even when the storm came. What was the weather forecast from the United States?
It's supposed to be overcast with chance of rain for the next 4 days.
And then the
Chinese forecast is clearing today and nice for the next 3 days.
So that's yin and yang right there.
So frustrating as soon as you get here and you see the route.
Oh, man. If we would have gone straight up the Northern Valley, it would have been a
We would
no-brainer.
be on the route already and we would be caught in the storm on the route.
At least we would have been committed and up there. It's that mental thing, right?
You must always push you to the limit. There's not even one day takeoff. Really make your whole body, your mind feel tired. It's a challenge for your soul.
The higher we went, the more unstable the weather became. Small avalanches started pouring down around us.
You can have really stable slopes that turn into avalanche slopes almost overnight.
All this, you see all the snow is kind of beautiful.
Are we crazy?
Yeah, we're fucking crazy, man. We need to go to beach.
It's really fucking bad. This is bad.
I think the avalanche was the tipping point for leaving. The whole north face just came crashing down, sheared all the snow off the side there.
Holy shit, it's totally gone.
Oh, that's huge. That's the biggest avalanche I ever see.
I was really worried that might cause more avalanche, even our routes, if there's lots of fresh snow. That would be very dangerous.
Oh, here it is. It's snowing. Come on.
You can feel it. It's big. It's really big.
So we got a weather report said it's supposed to have another 7 days bad weather with big snow. So that's why I was really worried about this avalanche situation.
Avalanches scare me.
Sounds big.
I think it's the most unpredictable factor in mountaineering.
There's rock going by. Lots of it.
And I've been in avalanches, caught in sun and rockfall that you couldn't see coming.
Watch out, John. Oh my God.
Honestly, I think I maybe have gotten lucky because I've had some stuff come over me. And I think it's like people describe being a car accident.
Right on him.
At the moment there, your mind slows down. You just really, you're not scared in the moment.
That's where John is. He's right under it.
It's just happening and you're figuring out the best way to get out of there. That's why I said we have to climb up the ridge here, the buttress, because it's, that could avoid the potential avalanches. It was also clear this huge avalanche came down. The route is probably safer now. So I actually wasn't all that concerned about that per se.
But out that, no.
I didn't really think we have enough time to wait for the good weather.
Sue and I went up to get the gear. All the way up, I started rationalizing in mind why we shouldn't be going down and we should be going up. We should have been trying to go as high as we could. Well, I just got pissed because there was no reason we should have been going down.
How you doing, John?
John was clearly unhappy about throwing in the towel.
You want to go back up, don't you?
100% regret coming down here.
And today's a bittersweet end. I won't even say sweet, it's bitter.
It was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
It's a mistake on my part. I don't know why.
No, it's not a mistake on your part.
I had a feeling that no one actually really wanted to go up. Because I wasn't sure what the conditions would be like up there. Right. I didn't know if the weather was going bad. But I was willing to go up. Not to blame anyone else. So I wasn't going to say to them, if you want to go up, let's go up. Because then I felt like I really felt I was going to be responsible for people there. So people really had to feel under their own free will that they wanted to go up.
Right.
But no one else said that. And so I guess Tim did want to go up, but he being the cameraman was taking a neutral position. And I think it was a misunderstanding between us at that time.
I think John he was really unhappy for that. But for me, it's a little bit different because I'm leaving this area in Sichuan. I could go back anytime.
Dalio knew that we were probably heading back because mostly he wanted to head back. You know, for Yamalong, it was just another climb for him that year. My judgment was that I wouldn't want to give it another shot. But, you know, it was like my one big climb a year. You know, I only have those 20 days. You know, I'm a father.
It's tough decision, you know. The decision not really easy for us.
Last few minutes when we left there, John said, it's nothing about this summit. It's something about the climbing. I totally understood that. Even we could not make it to the top, it's the whole experience of this trip. I totally believe we'll come back again to this mountain. We'll leave our track on the top to show the real climbing spirit.
We left the mountain defeated again, but this time the decision to leave wasn't unanimous. On our drive back to Chengdu, I wanted to stop at the Litang Monastery. I think it was a good distraction for all of us.
When we got there, that was unusual because the Lama invited us to the top of this monastery. We got a chance to visit the Panchen Lama's room.
And we're going into Panchen Lama's house.
Third Dalai Lama.
The third Dalai Lama?
We come to climb these mountains, to challenge ourselves. We also come to see this new area and experience the culture.
We're not sure if any outsiders have ever been up to this part of the monastery, but we all agreed that this opportunity was unique and rare, especially because one of the rooms was very significant for Tibetan Buddhism, and I was not permitted to film in it.
We get into the very small secret room. We can see all these their treasures there. He was really kind and gave us very good wishes, you know, and it makes me feel very emotional because I'm a Buddhist, you know. That was definitely a special experience for me.
3达赖喇嘛注意是达赖喇嘛注意注意7达赖喇嘛
So you say 7 Dalai Lama was born in here, in Litang.
Oh, really?
3达赖喇嘛是寺庙区的第一名创始人他
Oh, so the third Dalai Lama was the founder of this monastery.
The third is?
Yeah, the third.
Okay.
I thought this is what the Buddhism called equal, because you lose something, you get something. We didn't make this top of the Yamalong, but I think we got something special from this trip. In everybody's life, we are always on our way to climb up. That means our mind, our spirit, try to figure out philosophy of yourself.
When I left China, I stopped in Tokyo, Japan to meet with the distinguished Japanese explorer and climber Tomutsu Nakamura.
The Japanese Alpine Journal had done several articles on the Yamalong. Tom Nakamura, who's the editor of the Japanese Alpine Journal and an incredible explorer himself, did a history on the mountain.
Over the last 24 years, Tamutsa Tom has made more than 30 expeditions to map and photograph the mountains of eastern Tibet and western Sichuan. His research has benefited the mountaineering community, providing alpinists from around the world photographs and information about the unclimbed peaks here. He was awarded the Royal Geographic Society Busk Medal for his contribution to exploration.
We are first party to enter the southern side, the Yamalong Massif, you see. These vast areas are still almost unexplored. This area is last frontier in the greater range of the world.
The more I researched about this region, the more Tom's name became synonymous with it, especially the history. He told me that the significance of Yamalong was that it was the last independent 6,000-meter peak unclimbed in the Sichuan Province of China. He applauded our efforts and published our accounts to get up the mountain.
There are no such region in the world, you see, untouched yet, untrodden.
So we spend too much time on this mountain. We gotta get this job done.
Yeah, it was done. I was not coming back to Yamalong after 2010, after that fiasco, after it ended.
We've been there, we know this area. I think Yamalong should be done for all of us.
The information was out there to how to go up it in the best route.
The American Alpine Journal and the Japanese Alpine Club published our reports and those of the recent British attempts. More attention was now given to this unclimbed 6,000-meter peak.
So the word was out there. Climbers, here's this mountain that's defied all these teams. Come give it a shot. Tim called me and he said, John, we really got to go to these mountains. I hum and hawed, but we talked about it. We got each other really motivated. You know, we had already committed 2 years of our lives to this mountain. So there was a motivation there, kind of like, hey, if someone gets to the top of this mountain first before we do, you know, how will that make me feel? Yeah, it just was like clear, we gotta go do this mountain, because I knew I could go climb Yamalong. I told Tim, though, if we don't get up the third time, I'm definitely never doing it again.
In Chinese culture, we have a word said, the good luck will come after all the bad luck.
We were probably the least prepared in 2011.
In this time, I think the beginning is not good.
Then all these things started happening. Tim got like a blocked intestine.
Big boy is in the hospital for a couple of days, lost some weight.
3 days he cannot eat and stay in the 3 nights in the hospital. Poor Tim. But this guy is tough, man. He just said, okay, let's keep going.
Full truck and 5 men.
There's too much stuff in the car.
We had about 20 hours of driving ahead of us, and Dalio wasn't going to get squeezed in that back seat. So at the last minute, he decided to ride his motorcycle.
Okay. Besides climbing, riding a motorcycle is my hobby. I feel the freedom. I love speed. Unfortunately, it was the best season for riding motorcycle.
We've traveled across the Sichuan-Tibet highway on many occasions, but this time the road was completely under construction, delaying us by days.
The roads are just in terrible shape. They're under constant construction, and there happened to be a big flood that summer, actually, and it wiped out a lot of the roads and actually some villages, and a lot of people died.
Normally, like 2 hours driving from Chengdu to Luding. But this time we take, almost 10 hours, man.
Our luck was getting worse. Dalio tried to catch up with us, but he got in an accident.
But when I getting close to the Erlangshan tunnel, the road was pretty icy, so I got an accident. I fell down the road, almost fell into the big truck. I'm serious, I almost died there.
How was it, man? Bad? Lots of trucks and the road is kind of icy.
My Gore-Tex path is broken, you know. I don't know, I have to climb with this.
And then on the second day of driving, our clutch went out and a large dump truck lost its brakes, hitting us head on.
Also, we meet the traffic jam.
These guys, they have worse luck than me. They got car crash.
Transmission broke on our Jeep.
So we need to get back to the Xinduqiao and fix the clutch. But no, when we stop there, you know, when we're waiting, a truck just hits our Jeep. Boom.
Yeah, came down from the top of the hill, and he lost his brakes, so he cannot stop it because it's slow. The first vehicle he hit is a great wall. The second one is a van, and the third one is mine.
So he crunched 3 cars, right?
He got 3 cars totally. Yeah, it's not good. It's a good beginning.
No, it's not a good beginning. Go to the police station, take a report?
That's right.
Was he saying that you were at fault?
No,
the driver.
That's a Tibetan guy said.
Really?
If he hit you, if you hit him, what doesn't matter? He hit him first.
We finally arrive in Litong after 4 days of driving.
That's our climber. Look at that world-class climber down climbing that vehicle.
While in Litong, we discovered that Dalio forgot his ice axes.
This is like a soldier who lost. This is a weapon.
You know, many things still happens.
So it was just one thing after another. But I don't know, we kept going forward.
By the 5th day, and just before we turned off the main road to go up to the monastery, logs nearly crashed down on our vehicle.
We realized that they were logs that the locals had cut. I was ready to turn back on numerous occasions. I started to believe that, you know, these are all bad omens and that we weren't meant to climb this mountain. These were bad signs. I mean, I'm not a superstitious person, but I was actually getting superstitious about this. I think everybody was, but no one wanted to say it.
This bad luck is taste or determination or fortitude.
We finally get to the monastery.
We step out and there's the Lama from a year before. And we're like, hello, and we shake hands. It was like meeting an old friend or meeting your friend from yesterday. You know, we hadn't seen them in a year. And it was just a really warm feeling. And we went into the monastery, sat down and had tea. He was very welcoming. So it was really special. It was kind of almost like coming back to, felt like family in a way.
It really was special for me, just to see how much progress was made on the dormitories, and to see the children again. Even if we weren't climbing, it's this interaction with the local people that truly stays with you. A connection is formed. So this year, we decide to take yet another route to the mountain. It'll be our third and hopefully the most straightforward. We hike up the left valley and make camp just below the pass, which is at 5,080 meters. From the pass, we have to descend a couple hundred meters and then hike back up to base camp in the northern valley.
We had gotten up to the high monastery, and we noticed that they had forgotten my skis. So I went back down on a motorcycle to get my skis.
So he fell down?
Yeah, he fell down, and his motorcycle is broken.
His clutch breaks on his motorcycle. So I walk back down. He gets another motorcycle. He borrows one from his friends. He comes back. I get on it. We're going down the dirt road through the village. He waves to his friends. He doesn't look where he's going, and he steers right into this fence on the side of the road, and we wipe out.
Did John wipe out too?
Yeah.
Is he okay?
Yeah, so they have to walk back to the monastery.
And at this time, I swear, if my mates, if my climbing partners were not up at the higher monastery, I would have turned around at that point and went home. I was like, this is it. What are the chances of that happening? For this guy to wipe out on a road that's like 3 meters wide.
So I told him, don't bring your ski with you because this is not a good place for ski. We have to carry lots of stuff.
But John's delay created yet another dilemma.
We got up there, Dalio was waiting for us, and then Dalio said, let's go. And we started going the way that Tim and Lawang and our 3 porters from Suguniang were going. And the locals said, no, this other way is much faster.
The team ended up splitting into 3 separate groups, each taking a different secondary valley to access the pass.
Tim and the others didn't know if we were coming. They didn't see us coming, and they waited for us for like 2 hours. And Tim actually ran back down to the hut and then ran back up, 400 or 500 vertical meters in 45 minutes. So we got up here to near the pass, and we didn't see them. And they actually heard our screams. That got us all delayed, and then our local porters didn't want to carry anymore, so they dropped our gear here, which is fine. We don't want them to know we're going over to the other side.
All right, we're doing this under the radar again, right?
Right, so we have no climbing permit, which adds all to like the suspense to it, I think, and the nervousness.
The next morning, we woke at 4,900 meters, near the pass. The weather was bad, with nearly whiteout conditions, and once again, we considered our misfortune.
I was quite apprehensive about moving forward. I was convinced something terrible was going to happen to us on this climb.
3 of our Tibetan porters are from the Changping Valley near the popular mountain Sugunyanshan. They are strong as an ox, and more than just porters. They're our friends and teammates. We couldn't do this without them.
These are the true underdogs of what mountaineering is all about. These guys. And here's what they wear. Tennis shoes, and we have these big boots.
They call it the best shoes.
That is amazing.
Yeah. I like to climb with Tibetan climbers because when they're in the mountains, they have the naturally senses of this mountain. Tibetan says we should not yelling too much, too loud. They say there's bad weather. It's because of the yelling yesterday because we're yelling too much. So they think the loud change the direction of the wind. So the bad weather comes. Probably we should keep silence today. Because we're here.
Right.
There are places.
That's right.
Yeah.
We descend from 5,080 meters to 4,600 meters and then climb back up 300 meters to our base camp.
I love climbing, but I hate this.
Yeah.
This is bad shit.
So we put base camp next to a small glacier lake. Su says, let's wait a day and rest.
We got a weather report calling for 3 days of good weather, but then a storm system was coming that could last for a week. If we were going, now was the time.
Finally, we start to climb.
So we need to finish this job in 3 days.
This is much better than last year.
Yeah.
The ridge seemed easier this year. There wasn't as much snow, and we were quite familiar with it. We cruised across the lower section. Maybe familiarity breeds confidence.
I think everybody was in the mindset. No matter how much apprehension we had from everything that happened before, when we got on the mountain, we were just there, going. I mean, we have the ropes and we have protection we put in, but ultimately, if someone took a fall up here, they'd probably get hurt. So it's really about, feeling confident and being able to climb and not falling.
We were climbing fast because at this point, we knew if we didn't beat the storm, there was no coming back.
For a mountain like this, we had a pretty good Camp 1. Probably took us an hour to make the camp platforms. We didn't have to sleep tied into our harnesses. That's always a nice thing. We thought we could get higher today, but keep out the spin drift. But we only made it. We're at 5,360 meters, Camp 1. We're camped right below the rock section.
Yeah.
And today we went up to this rock section, and Dalio went up another about 40 meters. He fixed up the rock section and we left the ropes there. So tomorrow we can just break down camp and then start leading up again and climbing up through the rock section. And we're a little nervous because the weather report said it was gonna be really nice, but now it's changed.
Once we got above the rock band, we finally passed the 5,400 meter mark. This was a new milestone on Yamalong. Not only was it our high point on both the north and south sides of the mountain, it was the high point that the British and Japanese reached in their attempts up this route.
Actually, when I passed the 5,400 meters point, I was really concentrated on this climbing because that part was pretty scary. Rock of this mountain is very, very bad.
Oh, big rock! Rock! Big! Rock! Big!
You can go through hell on a mountain, and people say, how did you survive that? And then the smallest thing, unpredictable factor, and that can be it. Could kill you. No matter how much you plan or try to mitigate the risks, there are always elements that can kill you that we have no control over.
So some part of this climbing, even one pitch, you only can make one piece of protection.
Dalio led up the exposed rock section. It was loose, there was unconsolidated snow on it, and he did it while carrying his pack.
You couldn't trust your protection in the rock so much, so Dalio didn't put in that much protection. If he actually did fall, he would have fallen a long way. He had to be really careful. Would the rope have held him? Would it have held us?
That's a sheer drop off this side.
We thought the ridge led straight up to the north face of Yamalong, but we had no idea there was a 10-meter notch that separated us from the upper mountain. It wasn't obvious from below. It was only after the climb that we noticed it on one of the British expedition photographs.
So we were through the rock, and we were finally on the glacier.
Man, almost there, huh?
You're getting there, buddy.
We did a type of climbing called running belay, where you're in a rope, but you can travel very quickly. It means that every person in your party has to be very, very confident and skilled technical climber on ice and snow. And then you can move very quickly. And there is a potential, if a fall does happen, that particularly the person in lead could get very seriously injured.
We spent a long time on the whole ice part.
We just kept going for hours and hours, kicking up and along that glacier.
The height of this ice and snow part is much longer than I expected.
Tim punched through a crevasse, and I didn't even know it. He punched through, but then he was able to climb out.
How you feel, man?
Thirsty.
2 good leads.
Yeah, we made some altitude.
Yeah, we did. Having 2 axes makes a difference.
We get to a flat spot, but I'm looking up higher. I'm looking up higher at this split in the glacier, and I'm saying that's where I want to put camp, because there's a flat spot up there. The snow was not as cooperative up to that next part, and I was exhausted, actually, when I got up there. I could feel the altitude.
By the time we reached the high camp, it was late. We were climbing with headlamps on, and the narrow snow ridge was much steeper than we anticipated. We were exhausted.
We have to spend 1 or 2 hours to fix the tent there.
We set up the tents on a sloping snow bridge over a gaping crevasse where the upper glacier pulled away from the mountain.
After we get into the tent, boil the water, have something to eat, it's almost 1 o'clock. So we didn't have too much time to sleep.
Blowing. Yeah. How you guys doing?
My body was pretty bad that day. I mean, my body felt tired.
Getting enough water? Yep.
I think we all knew that this summit was in our reach. So we woke up early and we were out at first light, pretty much. And Asu took the lead.
For me, before the summit, I'm not thinking too much. When I climb, I focus the mind, because you make attention for your climbing.
That's the summit. Off to the right.
We were always just constantly going and going and going, and it was sustained. It was tiring, just kicking steps and kicking into the ice and the hard snow. You couldn't make one mistake because our protection was far and in between as we were really trying to make good time.
Too much wind? Yeah, there's a lot of wind today.
Yeah. Cold.
Cold?
Yeah.
High on the face, we had to make a very long traverse over these snow ribs. We also knew that we had to stay low on the ridge because the massive cornice that overhung the south face of the mountain. This made it difficult to see the actual location of the summit.
So we spent a long time to check highest of this mountain ridge.
So the four of us were running it out towards the summit, and that exposure was incredible. It was a lot longer going up to the summit than we thought it was going to be, traversing out slightly below the Yamalong's ridge, summit ridge.
It's really steep. So when you traverse on the snow wall, when you watch down, it's just okay. This is 1,000 meters. You cannot make a mistake.
This is it. This is like the early days of climbing in North America. This is kind of where it is in China now. Maybe in the whole scheme of things, it's a little thing, but through this process, and we now understand it deeper. We've been to a place no one's been. And think of all the people who have done that throughout the ages in history. And there are still places out there that no one has been to. What kept all of us going forward that we want to climb after all this adversity? It was like a thread, like was slightly pulling you along. And that's what kept me going forward.
You don't know that God's going to happen to you, but you keep going, you try your best.
When you face a danger or difficult time, you need somebody to encourage you to climb. Not anybody said, let's go back home, this is too dangerous.
Oh my God, that almost...
So I like this team because they're very solid. We help each other, we trust each other.
And once you've roped up with something, once you've climbed a mountain like this with somebody and your life is literally in their hands and vice versa, I think there's a certain bond. It's something more than friendship.
In one day, in one time, in 1 second, you get your commitment,
Summit of Yamalong. Get up here, Asu. Get up here. Come on. Oh! Yeah! What's up, Asu? Oh! Yeah! Yeah! We did it! Yeah! 3 years, brother. Woo! 3 years! 3 years.
In that time, it make you, happy, You enjoy that second, We get.
By the time we were all staying on the summit, it was a perfect day. The wind just died down.
At that point, I was so happy we can make that because the history has been changed. The last 6,000 meters, the independent peaks in this area is done. Before us, nobody stood there. So we were the first team stood on the top of this mountain. So I'm really proud of this.
If I climb mountain just to get to the summit, I want to climb mountains. It's the whole process of figuring it out, of climbing it, and the summit is the prize you get at the end. But what's worth getting a prize without going through everything else you need to win that prize?
Summit for me is not that important, but after we get through all kinds of things, in these 3 years, when I was changing, I growing up, get all kind of experience. On the summit, it still means something. You guys get there, you guys finish it. You do a good job.
And the amazing thing, as soon as we set foot on that mountain, everything went really smoothly. I've never had a climb go that smoothly before. It was the polar opposite of all the troubles we had before.
For me, the reward is simply that we followed in our own footsteps and not those of others. We persevered and finished what we started. Yamalong isn't the highest or the most challenging mountain in the world, but this was our story, and we finished it.
How do you feel?
I believe this summit worth to climb in 2 years for me because Yamalong is a beautiful mountain. I follow my dream and I make this dream become true. So all these 2 years working hard, climbing hard, taking all this bad luck, I think is worth that moment.
This mountain did influence me in a more profound way than I thought it ever would. And it really was the embodiment of, I think, true exploration.
5,000 meters.
I gained a lot because not because of the climbing. The whole experience, I don't know how to say, get more colorful. I want a very colorful life. Yamalong just another bright color in my life. This is a very specific color in my life.